what happens when your faith casts you out, and the wilderness you flee to is ruled by something much older and hungrier than God. That's the question at the dark heart of Robert Eggers' masterpiece, The Witch. This isn't just a horror movie. It's a chilling descent into the Puritan psyche, a story where faith, fear, and folklore bleed together until you can't tell them apart. Today, we're stepping into that isolated 17th century New England farm to unravel the film's terrifying themes. From a family's unraveling to the seductive whisper of living deliciously, we'll explore how this slow-burn masterpiece uses historical accuracy not just to scare you, but to make you question the very nature of good, evil, and the price of freedom. So grab your courage, because we're about to venture deep into the woods. The story begins with an act of radical, unwavering faith. William and his family are banished from their Puritan plantation, deemed too devout, too rigid, even for the famously strict community. They journey into the unknown, seeking a pure life dedicated solely to God. They find a plot of land at the edge of a vast, foreboding forest. It's here, in this self-imposed exile, that their new Eden is meant to blossom. But the wilderness is not empty. The silence isn't peaceful, it's watchful. As they build their new life, the forest looms, a physical and spiritual barrier between them and the world they left behind. Their isolation is absolute. God's silence in this new home feels louder and more deafening than any prayer they could ever shout. They sought purity, but what they found was a place where their faith would be tested in the most brutal way imaginable. They are alone, utterly and completely, with their beliefs and whatever lurks just beyond the tree line. The family's fragile world shatters in a single, terrifying moment. Thomasine, the eldest daughter, is playing peekaboo with the newborn baby, Samuel. A moment of innocent play, a blink of an eye, and he's gone, vanished. There's no cry, no struggle, just an empty cradle, and the chilling realization that something has taken him. The film then cuts to one of the most disturbing scenes in modern horror, a witch in the forest, her hands red, performing a dark ritual with the infant. We, the audience, know the truth. But for the family, the truth is a terrifying void. This single event plants a seed of horror that begins to rot the family from the inside out. The loss of the baby isn't just a tragedy, it's a theological crisis. Was it a wolf? Was it a punishment from God for their sins? Or was it something else, something far more sinister? The unknown is the most fertile ground for fear, and in that empty cradle, the family's paranoia finds its roots. The devil didn't need to knock on their door. He was invited in by their own growing dread. With Samuel gone and no rational explanation, the family's grief quickly curdles into suspicion. The question of what happened transforms into who is to blame. And the target lands squarely on Thomasine. Her mother, Catherine, consumed by sorrow and religious fervor, starts to see sin in her daughter's every action. The young, mischievous twins, Mercy and Jonas, begin to whisper accusations, claiming Thomasine is a witch who consorts with the farm's imposing black goat, Black Philip. The family unit, once bound by faith, now becomes a claustrophobic courtroom where everyone is both judge and accused. When evil has no face, suspicion becomes the deadliest weapon of all. William, the patriarch, tries to hold things together with prayer and denial. But his authority crumbles under the weight of his own guilt and his wife's escalating hysteria. Every failed crop, every strange occurrence, every whispered secret becomes another piece of evidence in the case against Thomasine. The real horror isn't just the witch in the woods. It's watching a family, isolated and terrified, tear itself apart from the inside, fueled by the very faith that was supposed to save them. Throughout the film, one figure remains a constant, silent observer. Black Phillip, the family's large, imposing black goat. He does nothing, yet his presence is one of the most unsettling elements of the story. The twins whisper that they talk to him, that he will grant them anything they wish. To the parents, he becomes a symbol of the untamed, the diabolical beast that seems to mock their piety with his very existence. The camera often lingers on him, his dark, intelligent eyes watching the family's descent. He never speaks, yet every glance feels like a promise of something ancient and powerful watching them. Black Phillip represents the primal, untamable nature that the Puritans so desperately tried to suppress. He is the wildness at the edge of their manicured faith, the embodiment of the very temptations they fear. He doesn't need to perform any overt acts of evil. His silent, watchful presence is enough to confirm their deepest anxieties. He is the canvas onto which they project all their fears about sin, nature, and the devil. In their minds, he becomes more than just an animal. He becomes an omen, a vessel, a silent conspirator in their ruin. At the center of this storm is Thomasine, a girl on the cusp of womanhood. In the rigid Puritan worldview, this transition is fraught with danger. A woman's burgeoning independence and desires were seen as inherently sinful, a gateway for temptation. As the family's misfortunes mount, Thomasine becomes the perfect scapegoat. Her mother resents her youth and beauty. Her father feels a guilty attraction he cannot admit, and her siblings see her as a source of dark power. She is blamed for the baby's disappearance, for the failed crops, for every shadow that falls upon the farm. Thomasine is trapped. Her piety is questioned, her obedience is doubted, and her every move is scrutinized. The film masterfully explores how a society terrified of female autonomy will project its deepest fears onto women. Thomasine becomes the embodiment of everything her family and their culture are afraid of: independence, nature, and the unknown. She is a witch, not because of anything she has done, but because they need her to be one. Their accusations are a desperate attempt to find a tangible source for the evil that's destroying them. And in their terror, they turn their own daughter into a monster. The family's faith, stretched to its breaking point, finally snaps. After a night of unimaginable horror, where the Witch of the Woods attacks the farm and Caleb dies in a state of ecstatic, terrifying possession, all semblance of order is gone. Catherine, broken by grief, turns on Thomasine in a final, violent rage, blaming her for everything. In the ensuing struggle, Thomasine is forced to kill her own mother in self-defense. William is then gored to death by Black Phillip, who finally reveals his true, violent nature. Thomasine is left entirely alone amidst the bloody wreckage of her family and her faith. There are no more prayers, no more scripture, no more hope for divine salvation. In this moment of absolute desolation, when belief has finally been shattered by brutal reality, the devil doesn't need to lie or trick her. He only needs her acceptance. The evil that was once a suspicion is now a bloody, undeniable truth. The supernatural has broken through the veil, not as a subtle temptation, but as a visceral, physical force that has destroyed everything she ever knew. The path to God is closed, but another path has just been violently cleared. Standing alone in the aftermath, covered in her family's blood, Thomasine has nothing left. Her family is dead, her home is destroyed, and the God she was raised to worship has been silent. She walks to the barn and approaches the one being that remains, Black Philip. She asks him to speak to her, and he does. In a low, seductive whisper, the devil finally reveals himself. He doesn't offer damnation, he offers a life of pleasure. Wouldst thou like to live deliciously? He asks. For Tamacine, who has only known hardship, guilt, and oppression, this offer is irresistible. She finds a coven of witches, dancing and levitating around a bonfire. She joins them, and as she begins to rise into the air, a look of ecstatic release crosses her face. This final choice isn't presented as a simple fall into evil. It's a choice between a life of pious suffering and obedient misery, and a life of terrifying, exhilarating freedom. Is it a damnation or a liberation? The film leaves that for us to decide. Tamacin's journey ends not with a whimper of fear, but with a powerful, unsettling embrace of the darkness that finally offered her a choice. And that's the haunting brilliance of The Witch. It's a film that uses history to dig into timeless fears about faith, the unknown, and the terrifying power of belief. It shows us that sometimes the most horrific monsters are the ones we create ourselves out of fear and suspicion. What did you think of that ending? Was it a tragic fall or a triumphant escape? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like and subscribe for more film analysis. See you next time.